Mamdani, M-A-M-D-A-N-I. The name is Mamdani, M-A-M-D-A-N-I.
Yo, brain rots, welcome back to another video. So let me tell you something. New York City has just flipped its entire political universe, and nobody expected it to happen the way it did. Zohran Mamdani walked into the mayor's office, and instantly the internet lit up. Some people were celebrating like a major historic shift just happened. Others, they were convinced that York City was heading into unknown territory, and a huge number of people were arguing without actually knowing much about who this guy is. Okay, so in this video, I am breaking down all that for you. What his background looks like, why the election was so emotional for everybody, what other leaders are saying, and how different communities reacted to this win. Zohran Quaim Mamdani didn't appear out of nowhere. He was born in Kampala in Uganda, Africa, in 1991 and grew up in a family surrounded by political conversations, cultural work, and filmmaking. Not the flashy type of upbringing, but the kind where people sit around talking about the world. His father, Mahmoud Mamdani, is globally respected academic is a globally respected academic in political theory. His mother is a world-renowned filmmaker whose work has been shown and awarded all over the world. So Mamdani grew up in an environment filled with ideas, filled with debates and perspective. And yes, he is Muslim. This has been going along because his father was, so he's Muslim, right? Right. But this is being talked about a lot. His religion that is publicly confirmed. He is the first Muslim mayor in New York City's history, and also the first South Asian mayor. Before becoming mayor, he served in the New York State Assembly, representing Queens, where he became known for constantly talking about rent, transportation, and working class struggles. Okay? Before anything else, it's important to remember something simple. The United States is a capitalist country. The overall economic system, private business, profit, competition doesn't change just because a new mayor is elected. Policies can shift, priorities can shift, okay, but the entire structure remains the same. That context matters for everything that comes after. Now, one big conversation during Mamdani's rise was the use of political labels throughout his campaign. Different people use different terms for him. Some of Mamdani's critics in like very they were very big leaders criticizing him who used the word communist when talking about him. Others disagreed and described him in completely different political terms. Mamdani himself uses his own language to describe his political approach, and his supporters interpret that one way while his critics interpreted another. Those labels became part of the public debate, and understanding the debate is more important here than taking a side in it. Okay, now I'll tell you this: he is not basically he doesn't call himself a communist. He calls himself a socialist. Okay, now let's move on about his camp to talk about his campaign message. The part that connected so many New Yorkers. to him. Zohran Mamdani didn't frame his campaign and around fancy slogans or broad promises that he wasn't going to keep. He went directly at the day-to-day problems people deal with. Rent in New York has become almost impossible for a regular person to handle. And even apartments that are supposed to be protected somehow get more expensive every year. His idea was to freeze rent in those regulated units so landlords couldn't keep pushing the limits through loopholes. Transportation was another major issue. Mamdani talked about how getting around the city shouldn't feel like paying a daily tax. Free buses were part of his plan to make transportation less expensive for people who rely on it every single day and don't have their own cars, their own vehicles. Childcare was another point he focused on. Families in New York can end up paying half their income just so someone can watch their children while they work. It's one of the biggest financial pressures on households, and he wanted to address it directly. Public housing has been struggling for years. Mold issues, broken elevators, heating failures, and buildings that desperately need investment. Mamdani treated it as a real priority instead of something that only gets mentioned during elections. He also spoke about stopping illegal evictions and, strengthening the enforcement against landlords who abuse loopholes. And whenever people asked how he planned to fund all of this, he constantly pointed towards raising additional revenue from wealthy individuals and large corporations that benefit heavily from the city. Then came election night, and that's when everything shifted. Mamdani won with around 50.4% of total vote, defeating Andrew Cuomo, who was running independently, and Curtis Sliwa, the Republican candidate. But the real story wasn't just the number, it was the turnout. People who usually don't vote showed up in huge numbers. Young voters came out in far larger numbers than expected. Immigrant neighborhoods turned out to be strong. Okay. Working class communities that usually feel ignored made their presence felt. It wasn't just an election, it was an emotional release for people who felt overwhelmed by the cost of living. And it's not hard to understand why he won. New York has been drowning in expenses for years. If you live there, you would probably know this. Rent keeps climbing, groceries cost more than ever, transportation adds up quickly, childcare feels unreachable for many families. People are exhausted from just trying to survive month to month. Mamdani spoke directly about those daily struggles, and people connected with that honesty. Young people heard someone finally addressing what they deal with. Immigrant families saw someone who understood outsider experiences. Working class voters heard someone focusing on issues they face every day. It was a combination of timing, frustration, and a message that felt grounded in real life. During the campaign, President Trump reacted publicly and repeatedly. He criticized Mamdani's platform, calling it too far left for New York's economy. He has warned us that some proposals could make businesses reconsider investing in the city and said that higher taxes on corporations could push companies to relocate out of New York. He expressed concern that certain policies might affect real estate markets or long term economic growth. In interviews and rallies, he used phrases like too radical and compared some ideas to what he called a socialist experiments in other cities. These were his predictions and concerns for his perspective. After the election was called, Mamdani didn't respond with a long back and forth. Instead, he delivered a short line in his victory speech: "Turn the volume up," which spread rapidly online and became a defining moment simply because of how surprising the election felt to so many people. Reactions from other leaders came in quickly. Sadiq Khan, a mayor of London, of the UK, congratulated him and called the win historic. Progressive leaders across the country viewed it as a sign of younger and more diverse voices entering major political positions. Conservative leaders had the opposite reaction, saying New York might be heading into risky economic territory. Everyone reacted in their own way based on their own perspective. But winning the election is just the beginning. New York's government cannot be moved by one person alone. I'll confirm you that. Mamdani will need the city council, the state government, and multiple layers of approval to pass the policies he talked about. Free buses require major funding, and universal childcare requires even more. Rent freezes need legal support and negotiations. Tax changes need cooperation from Albany. Some plans will take time. Some will face political obstacles, and some may succeed. The next year will reveal how much can realistically move forward within the system. What is clear is that Zohran Mamdani's victory marks one of the most historic political movements in New York's modern history. He's the first Muslim mayor, he's the first South Asian mayor, and one of the youngest mayors the city has ever seen. He won during a time when many New Yorkers felt overwhelmed by the cost of living and wanted something different. And now the entire world is watching to see what happens next. Whether the system allows the changes he talked about or whether the political machinery slows everything down like it often does. Thanks for watching, everybody.